Good evening, everyone. Uh, Welcome to
Evening.
another session. Evening, how are you? Welcome to another session for advanced programming. So, like what we discussed or what we agreed yesterday, we are going to start with object-oriented, which I assume is quite difficult. So it's going to take, I think, about 3 sessions doing this topic together. However, when we are going to do the exam preparations, we are also going to do maybe another 2 sessions uh, based on past exam papers specifically for this topic. Hence, I always wanted to start with it because other topics are quite easy to grasp, but this one it's quite complex and big one, big content, huge content within object-oriented programming. So first things first, we need to discuss why object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming, it's quite useful in the industry today. Main applications that you are seeing right now, they are being created using object-oriented. Hence, it's very, very relevant in the industry. To those who are into programming, maybe you are at workplace, you are interested in programming, or what exactly your IT department are doing. This is the core or the heart of programming, right? Although there are main parts, categories of programming, but this one is the heart of programming, object-oriented. And you could see that not even at your workplace, they may not do the actual programming, the actual coding. This is the actual coding. Why? They may subcontract it to other service providers. Then they'll just buy the system. But those guys where they buy the system, they will come to your workplace, install it, do the maintenance and everything. So maybe your IT department is there to maintain, right? Because this thing is quite difficult. However, the difficult part of it has got advantages because of reusability methods. Let's take, for instance, you are a bank, right? In South Africa, you are new, you are trying to establish yourself. You have big banks like Nedbank, FNB, Standard Bank, Capitec, and so forth. You see, those huge banks have got an application, right? If you see very well, if you take a close look, those applications are similar, right? Those applications are similar. Maybe the interface is different, but they are similar. How are they similar? You log in, you put in your password, your username and your password. In every application, they do the same. They display the balance, available balance. You can check, you can do loan repair requests, bank statement, and so forth. But the interface are different. So as an upcoming bank, you are introducing a bank. What you simply do is you don't need to create from scratch. You just buy the application and you customize it according to your colors as a corporate colors as your bank. So that's the same concept of object oriented. You are reusing what has been already there out there. So there's nothing new in this world, right? All because of object oriented programming. It allows us to reuse objects. It allows us to reuse what has been created already. So The first thing that you need to understand when you are studying or you want to learn object-oriented programming is because a brief history about these things, right? Why are we studying these things, right? The reason why we are studying these things.
You want to see?
Let's try to mute ourselves, guys, or otherwise I'll mute you from this end so that we don't disturb our meeting, so that we don't disturb. Whenever you are listening, try to mute so that whatever noise on the background, it will not interrupt others in the class. So the main objective of object-oriented was there to solve a problem. So in the past, computer programs were written in one big file with thousands of lines of codes. This made them hard to understand, difficult to fix or debug, and hard to reuse other programs, right? So the solution which was introduced to solve that part was the use of methods. If you remember last semester, we learned about methods, whereby you create your method and you recall it later on. The reason why you are creating a method, maybe you want to use it at a later stage. You simply call the method and you write a lot of things there and you call a method to solve a part, right? However, that was not enough methods. That was not enough. There was another new program, right? For example, instead of writing the same code again and again to calculate a sum, you just write or you just call or invoke the sum method and call it when needed. However, there was another problem. As programs grew even bigger, methods alone were not enough to keep things organized. Developers also needed to reuse full sets of code in different parts of program or other programs. Hence, they introduced object-oriented programming, right? So basically, the key word here is object. What exactly is an object? Right? So for you to understand a topic, you need to define or to understand the keywords within the topic. Before we have an object, you need to have a class. If you remember very well, under Advanced Programming 1A, we learned about classes. Every program that we wrote last semester, you need to declare the class, right? That was the first thing. And it's one of the things that is mandatory in Java. For Java to work, everything is grouped under classes. I remember in one of our introduction for Advanced Programming 1A, we learned and we draw some visuals with classes, how the representation of class. So what is exactly a class? A class is a user-defined data type that serves as a template, right? It basically serves as a what? As a template or a blueprint to create objects, right? It defines the properties, also called attributes or what? Or states, what you are seeing on an object, and behaviors, code, methods, or functions. So it depends with a programming language that you are using. If you are using Python, they call them functions. But we have learned of methods last semester. What are methods? How to create methods? If you revisit Unit 7 or the last unit of your module for previous semester, how to create methods, the advantages of methods, and so forth. That's what we call the behaviors of the what? Of an object. So please pay attention on this part because it is very, very important. You are going to see that whatever that you are going to do under object-oriented programming, it should have these two parts. These two parts are very important. Properties or attributes or states, then behaviors, the methods or functions of a what? Of an object. So what exactly is an object? What exactly is an object? Object-oriented program. Object is anything that you may think of, right? An object is a specific instance of a class. So object, they are created within a class. Object is anything. It's an entity, right? It represents a single thing that is created based on the blueprint. So look around in your house. Everything that can be tangible is an object. A laptop is an object. A car is an object. A human being is an object. So we are all surrounded by objects. I think to those who have done physical science, they can relate to this. Object. A stone is an object. A pen is an object. Your table, your couch is an object, right? So those are examples of real instances of a class. An object is a real world instance. Anything that you can think of is an object. A house, a curtain, a door, it's an object, right? So you want to implement that within a class. A class, we learned about class previous semester. So you can create multiple objects from a single class, right? From a single class. So the first thing that you need to do is now we are doing object-oriented programming. So object-oriented programming, from the word object, any real thing that you can think of. So you can implement anything. We can code anything. That's why we are learning our programming language. We want to solve real world problems, right? How are we going to solve those real world problems that we are facing? We are going to use object-oriented programming, right? Maybe let's take for instance, a car has got two things. It has got variables or attributes. A car is a what? Is an object. So you can put any car of any object of your choice. In your start guide, they used a cat. You can use a dog. You can use a bank account. It's an object, right? A phone, right? So for these meetings, we are going to use a car as our what? Is our example going forward. So you need to, whenever you are learning this object-oriented, using these notes, using this discussion, let's try to follow a car as a what? Is an example. So a car, attributes, these are things that you can see, right? On an object, variables. So we have a make, it can be Toyota, it can be Ford, it can be a BWM. We have a model, we have a color, thing that you can see. We have a year, we have speed, you can see on the dashboard, right? Then what exactly does that car do, right? You can start the car. Those are methods. We call them behaviors. What does your car, what does your object does in real life? Okay? So we are trying to solve our problem here. So methods of a car, we have, it can start. You can start the engine, it can stop, it can accelerate, it can brake. What more can you add on this? So I would like to encourage you guys on your spare time, whenever you are learning object-oriented programming, come up with any object of your choice. You can come up with a table. What does a table do? You need to think outside the box. What are the attributes of a table? it has got legs, it has got color, all those things. It can fly. Yes. How exactly? I think we need to elaborate. Maybe a bird. A bird can be what? Can be an object. Hence, what does a bird do? It can fly. It can cry, right? A car can fly. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. Maybe because of technology. In the future, yes. In the future, I think we can. But if you ever imagine that, how police officers are going to survive if they fly, it will be another problem. All right. Uh, that would be interesting. I think Elon Musk is also working on that to make sure we are going to fly using what? Using cars. So that's all about object oriented. So I want to try to break this down to make it easier for us guys. Object oriented programming. Identify object of your choice. Then the second part is come up with this small table. What are the variables or the attributes, the states that you can see? Then list them down, maybe 3 or 4. What are the methods of that object? What are the behaviors of that method? That's the first part whenever you are learning object-oriented programming. It will make your life easier. Now, we want to implement this on our JGrasp. That's our what? Our second part, because we want to code. That's the end goal of programming. We need to code. We need to put it on what? To solve, to communicate, to write instructions with our what? With our laptop, so that we can execute and it will give us what? Solutions at the end of the what? At the end of the day. So now we are implementing a car, right? So in your study guide, they've clearly stated each of these objects has 2 characters. It has a state and behavior. State, those are the attributes that you can see with your eyes. Behavior, what exactly does that object do at the end of the what? At the end of the by state, we mean that the object is. That's the key word here. And by behavior, we mean what the object can do. So once you master these 2 things, I think it will be easier for object-oriented programs. So here, make a list of 10 real-life objects around your home, your workplace, listing next to each other about 5 of its states and behaviors. So this activity is very important. I will encourage you guys to go and do activity 3.1, right? Then how are you going to list them? You can copy this format, right? That's the first thing that you need what to do. So the next step now is to implement examples, to implement that car. The first thing is you need to create an object class, right? Object class, defining the class of our what? Of our object. Defining the class of our object in what? In Java. So we're going to say public class car, the name of our what? Of our object. Then you can comment. It is advisable to always comment. Whenever you are commenting in Java, or we do this slash slash forward slash double forward slash attributes or variables, then string color, right? We are now copying all these make you just name them string color like this. Let me copy them and pour them here. Attributes, Paste them, speed we have. Then here. Okay. Make, this is a string, becomes a string. So we are going to do this throughout using our what until we finish this topic using car as an example, because we are going to do many things with our what? With our object car. So string, we are now declaring these are variables. Sorry, these are variables, right? These are variables. These states are variables. So I need to give it variable type. We learn about variable types last semester. So you see, it's now what? Whatever we learned last semester, we are now implementing it. So there is no hide and seek with this. Everything is going to be what? To be carried forward. So string color, int speed, string make, string model, color. We have solved that already. Here it will be integer, small caps, int. Then I terminate here. I'm done with my what? With my variables. Then the next thing is the behaviors. The behaviors, the method. We learned about methods, how to create methods last semester. I think we can all agree. Then you give these methods what we call the name of the method. So we are going to say public void drive. So it can drive. Then we say system.out car is driving at speed blah 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 blah, right? Then let me also put all those methods that we have. I'll simply copy this and paste it on JGrasp later on. I want how many methods I have here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So let me copy and paste. I will just rewrite. I have drive 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I think we are good to go. We have start, that's the first thing. I'll simply paste it here. Void start methods. If you are confused, please revisit the last unit of the start guide from previous semester, how to create methods, where are they coming from, what is the purpose of methods. We'll have learned that. Now we have another type method, stop. Then we have accelerate. Or if you have the resources or the link from one of our classes about methods, I've explained them in detail. And we have break. These are the names of our what? Of our methods, and they are returning nothing so far. Public void accelerate, blah blah blah. Then car is starting. I'll simply say car is starting. I want it to return when I call it starting. When I call it starting, I'll leave it like this for now. Then car is stopped. Car is accelerating. Car is accelerating. Car is braking. Right. So I have implemented this part. Now you see it's easier now. I have implemented on my JGrasp this part, the variables. int, string. This is a string model because it's Corolla, it's a name. Then string, it's a name. Year, it's a what? These are numbers, and it becomes integer. Variable type is integer. Speed is integer again. Then these are methods: public, void, start, open brackets, the board of the what? Of the method. Of the method. Right? So for now, I want you guys to try this unit unit 3.1. Come up with 10 real life objects of your choice that you can think of. There's no hide and seeking. This is how you learn. Programming is all about learning by practice. Then do the part that we have done here. Draw this table, then implement it like this and save using the name of that object. Then if you run it, you see that it will not give what? The result. It will not run. It will just simply save, and because there is no main method here, it will not give you what? The result, the output. Let me try to save this. You see, it's saying no methods or no main methods or JavaFX application found in file, right? But it will not give you errors, hence it's correct. That will be the first step, right? Now, when we implement it, that's when we are going to have the main method. Now, this part we are now implementing, we are now creating. Let's create and use a car object, right? When now we are implementing, we are going to call the what? To create another class or the implementation class or a name of a class. Actually, you can say implementing car, or you can say the main class. Why are we calling it the main class? Because we want to implement. This is the entry point of a program, right? This is the entry point of any Java program. It should have a main method so that it can run and give you the output, right? So we'll do this later on. For now, let us go and create what I've told you guys, at least 10. Then implement them using this part. The variables, you list them. Then the methods, you have them. And we are going to take it from there on our next meeting, when we are going to do the implementing. We want to implement the car. These lines, I'm going to discuss them in detail, what it means. So for now, to avoid confusion and not to overload you with information, because this is going to be the most important part, the implementation part. Then after doing the implementation part, we are going to have constructors, two types of constructors, overloading the default constructors. But for now, I want you guys to do this part 3.1 and do what we have done in class so far. Do you have any questions before we close? I'm going to share this with you, this document with you, so that maybe you can have a look. But I want you guys, don't cheat. It is for the benefit of yourself, especially in the exam. And when you're pursuing programming, it will be easier for us and for everyone. Any before we close?
Right, are you gonna send us the recording for this? Because I don't think you also sent yesterday's one.
Yes, the lady is going to send, I'm sure, both of the recordings. You are going to have them.
Please. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Any questions? All right, so let's call it a day or a night until we meet again. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let's meet again sometime later on. I'm not, no, next week we're not going to meet. I'm sure another week we are going to meet to proceed from what we have left. We are now going to implement. So please, guys, I would encourage you to always tune in. It is easier when we are discussing it together. Here you can ask questions. I like to just say, I'll listen the recordings maybe towards semester ending. It will not balance for you. So let's tune in so that you can follow together from one step to another, so that when we do exam preparations, it will be easy. And I would encourage you guys to also visit the last part of the module last semester about methods, right? It will help you a lot. Thanks so much. I'm logging out. Have a wonderful evening.